Good morning, everybody, and a happy Monday morning to you. We have a lot to cover today. Also, I have a Finn update for those who are unaware of what happened to him. It'll be at the end. But first, I have something I want to talk to you about. I know you've seen this before, but it's so important, so listen up. Let's talk about some online security, shall we? You guys all know who follow my channel that I was doxxed online. You know that my name, age, profession, location, and even my special needs son autism diagnosis was put out on the web. We know who did that, but it could have been prevented. So simple, just by using a VPN. And the VPN provider that I use is Atlas VPN. So what is a VPN? Well, that's simple. It's an encrypted tunnel that nobody can see into, including hackers, the government, and even your internet service provider. This makes sure that your online activity remains private and secure and free from outside interference. Atlas shields your identity from websites, apps, and services that want to track you. While some companies limit the amount of devices you can use, Atlas VPN allows you to use it on unlimited devices. It's also good for streaming. Let's say you're on Netflix in the United States, but there's a show that you really want to watch that's on Netflix in Europe. Just go onto your VPN, change your location, and you can watch TV in other areas that normally wouldn't be available to you. And Atlas VPN is having a Christmas special. You can get it for $1.70 a month with 6 months extra. Wow. Now, the link is in the description box, but just in case you can't find it, you can scan this link. But be fast. This is a limited time offer. So don't wait, you guys. Click the link and get secure with Atlas VPN. Super important information, guys. You know that. All right. Especially after what happened to me. So let's jump in with both feet. We have a lot to cover, shall we? Let's go. We're going to start off with Edward today, the Duke of Edinburgh, because he went to the London Borough of Barking and Dagenham's The Wharf Studios today because he is the royal patron of the Production Guild of Great Britain, PGGB. And Edward heard all about the things they're doing to try to bring a new generation of filmmakers in London. I just think that's wonderful. Moving on. Next, we're moving on to King Charles, who did an engagement for the King's Foundation. It was themed a celebration of craft. So the king went and met with members of a choir who were singing Christmas carols. Then he had some mulled cider. He talked with local producers, and other people there were tutors and graduates. And this all took place at Highgrove. This gentleman above in the blue plaid shirt, Mr. Thackeray, said he's seen the king several times because he trained through the Princess Foundation and they bumped into each other a few times through the years. I think that's lovely. Moving on. Next up, we have Princess Anne, who went to the Sheraton Grand Park Lane in central London in November. And she is the patron, in case you don't know, of the Great London Scottish since 2011. And she made a nod by wearing Scottish attire with the navy tartan button-down dress. So Anne was welcomed to the event by the president of the London Scottish, Mr. Stephen Pearson, and Princess Anne was there to hand out awards to recipients who received a lifetime achievement. Some of the awards she gave out were Lifestyle Achievement for Business, Outstanding Young Talent, etc., etc. Love it. Let's move on now to Queen Camilla, who went to St. Paul's Cathedral for a charity Christmas carol concert. She was seen there with Dame Joanna Lumley, Dame Prue Laith, Giles Brandeth, lots of people. This London event was put in as, remember, she's president of cancer charity Maggie's. And she has been the patron since July of 2008. That is a very long time. So while they were at this very special concert, they had some readings from former Scottish poet laureate Jackie Kay, actor Sir Simon Russell Beale. There was a chef, the great British Bake Off judge Prue Laith. This was all to help with, people with cancer. And you all should know that since the charity opened its doors in 1996, they now have psychologists, cancer support specialists, benefit advisors. There's a whole support network to help people with cancer. Very nice. Moving on. Now we know that Charles, Camilla, the Duke of Edinburgh, they missed Catherine's Christmas concert, but now we know why. So let's turn our attention to that. We saw the stars arriving. One of the first people was Freya Ridings. Doesn't she look lovely in red? Next up, also in red, was Emma Willis. I love this crushed velvet suit she's wearing. Looking good. I'm loving these different styles, but I have to tell you, one of my favorites was Beverly Knight. I love the way she's covered head to toe, but still has this waist accentuating, wraparound. Gorgeous. Also in green was Adam Lambert, and if you look closely, I think some of the eye makeup he's wearing is green as well. Looking very sharp. So these people all arrived. They filed into Westminster Abbey, and then of course Catherine arrived. Honestly, I don't know how the woman sees to get out because so much flashing. I mean, it's a good thing she hasn't got a seizure disorder, like seriously. And I wish I could let you hear the sound of what was going on, because what you heard was chanting and yelling and screaming and Catherine, Catherine. So this is what took place outside the fence, and then she went through the gate to the other side. I'm kind of glad they got it from both sides. Otherwise, it was a little confusing with the cheering and the glaring, but look at the pops of those cameras. I mean, seriously, I don't know how you would ever get used to that. So anyway, she looked absolutely gorgeous in this all-white outfit, and she was walked up the steps, and in typical Catherine fashion, she looked right at the camera and said hello or Merry Christmas, something like that. Love it. She went inside by herself, went down through the lines, greeting everybody, saying hello. She also went down the line of the stars that came. She spoke with them. She also walked around and said hello. There were some, in the United States, I would call them Boy Scouts. I don't know what you call them in the UK. But, she went around and spoke with everybody. Now, in the meantime, the rest of the family starts showing up. Zara and Peter Phillips. Zara was looking gorgeous in this purple dress. I just love her style. The crowds then went absolutely wild because Beatrice came with her fabulous husband, and she had her stepson Wolfie with her, who, we don't get that many pictures of him, which is understandable. Anyway, Beatrice calls her her bonus child. He's absolutely adorable, and I loved seeing that he was included in the evening. Then you had Lady Sarah Chatto showing up. Remember, that's Princess Margaret's daughter. Next up to show up was Duchess Sophie. She was wearing a gorgeous blue coat and suede boots. Love her style. You guys know how much I love her. After that, you had Princess Eugenie show up by herself. Her husband, I'm going to assume, stayed home to look after the two boys. Next up, you had Carol and Michael Middleton. That would be Catherine, Princess of Wales' parents. You had Pippa show up. That's Catherine's sister, just in case you're unaware. Next up after that was the Duke and Duchess of Gloucester, and they were there with their younger daughter, Lady Rose Gilman, and son-in-law, George Gilman. Prince Michael of Kent and his daughter, Lady Gabriella Kingston, were there. Lord and Lady Frederick Windsor, that's the son and daughter-in-law of the Prince and Princess Michael of Kent, were there as well, with their daughters, Maud and Isabella. Westminster Abbey was looking absolutely beautiful. I can't believe I was just there a few weeks ago. Beautifully decorated, festive, love the colors on the wall. And then some interesting things came out. For instance, did you guys know that this concert fell on the anniversary of John Lennon's death? And even more interesting is that Jacob Collier did a performance of Last Christmas on a piano, and that piano originally belonged to John Lennon and was once owned by George Michael. Pretty cool. So at some point, Catherine made her way back outside because William was showing up with all three children. That's right, Louis made it this year, his first big debut. And I love the fact that he was in pants and not shorts. So the kids walked in. We noticed they had envelopes in their hands, and they immediately stepped to the side. Apparently there was a mailbox there set up for Santa. Very interesting. So they dropped those off. turned around, went right back to their parents. Louis grabbed William's hand, Charlotte grabbed Catherine's hand, and George, big boy George, walked in on his own. Look how tall he is. He's like barely 10. He's going to be really tall. I'm sure it was a lovely service, lots of talent, lots of singing. And oh my goodness, I love the fact that Wolfie was right up front with the Wales children. I love that. They're all hanging out together. Anyway, the service ended and they all walked out together. Look at Louis's face. Oh my God, isn't he cute? What a picture. But they were walking out with their candles lit. So eventually they get outside, and of course the cheeky side of Louis came right out because he turned around and he blew out Charlotte's candle. He pointed out that it was there, blew it out, and then turned and tried to, I believe, blow out George's, but George had already put his candle out. We knew there had to be some cheeky antics going on. He also looked to the left and became enamored with this nutcracker that was standing there. How cute. I have to tell you, Louis looks just like King Charles there. Like, seriously. All right. So they all walked out. Now, a big thank you. I'm going to say this once to Remoulade Sauce because that person was working super hard. We have all the lists of what everybody was wearing. Zara, Sophie, Catherine. There's even a one for Charlotte. I mean, it's just crazy. So big thank you for all of the information on what everybody was wearing. Now, articles are coming out saying that Harry and Meghan will be enraged by this Christmas concert because Kensington Palace put out a release that said that this service is going to showcase the hopes of new life and why it's so important to build supportive, nurturing worlds around children and adults. And of course, Jack Royston, Sugar Number One, came out and said, well, of course this is going to upset Harry and Meghan because Meghan wasn't supported by the royals during the time she was pregnant with Archie. So she says. Now, in the meantime, puff pieces like this are coming out. Harry drops a clue he could return to the UK permanently with Meghan Markle. That will never happen. Meghan hates the UK. This has nothing to do with him. This is all IPP. Just remember that. The articles that are coming out that I believe are ones like this. I do believe that William is done with Harry, especially now that he's had Catherine pulled into the middle of this mess. Articles are coming out saying that Harry is lonely and he wants to go back to the UK. Well, he probably should have thought about that sooner. You know what I'm saying? What has he got back in the UK? The family is gone. His friends are gone. His home is gone. Let's move on now to Endgame and Omid Scobie, because if you can believe this, he finally has admitted after all those times that he said, I didn't do it, I didn't do it, I didn't do it. He even swore on the life of his family. Do you guys remember this? A big thank you to Megan's Mole for this. Remember, Omid Scobie swore on his family's life. So somebody put up this tweet. Didn't he swear? And Omid came back and said, don't say that. That's not true. Really?
Can you, hand on heart, look me in the eye and say it wasn't a publicity stunt?
On my life, on my family's life.
You don't need to go that far.
No, of course, but no, but it's serious.
So there he is, caught in yet another lie. Anybody surprised by that? By the way, you guys all know he flew to California and is no longer giving interviews. Now, a few blind items came out. One of them says that the tabloids that usually take up for Omid didn't, and somebody else had to do it. I'm not sure which tabloids that would be, but this other one was very interesting because they're saying that because the book sales are so bad, he may have to pay back some of the advance that he was given by the bookseller. That I can believe. So what Omid is saying now is that, unbeknownst to him, an early and uncleared text was the one that was provided to the Dutch publisher for them to start working on the translation. But Omid said he never put the names down, so how could that even happen? Now, all these lies that Omid is telling is catching up with him because remember, he said that the only people he worked with were independent British barristers and in-house legal counsel to make sure every detail of the book was legally watertight, and he claims that he only worked with the UK and US publishers directly. Obviously, the Dutch publisher has now come out and said that is absolutely incorrect. The publisher said, and I'm quoting Omid Scobie's explanation in his column in News about the Dutch editorial process of the Dutch edition of Endgame is factually incorrect, and we do not recognize ourselves in his representation of the events. They also added, by the way, that they weren't allowed to say anything about the content. Now, there were other changes in the book that were brought forth. Here you go. Here's a change. Queen Camilla is now Camilla, Queen Consort, and Catherine has been changed to Kate. Page 128 no longer says Charles's name, but instead justifies the strict British laws that prevent Scobie from mentioning the names. They're saying that adjustments are also coming from the Sussex camp because the sources are now being quoted differently. They've also made changes in the area of terminology surrounding racism and the history of slavery. Scobie's dialing back on a lot of things. They've also changed some words. So instead of Charles having questionable choices and questionable dealings and suspicion, now they've changed the words to improper dealings. Oman even made changes on his sources. Where he wrote it's now ABC News, and sometimes they've added news sources or supplemented, making it harder to trace. But some of the biggest changes are where instead of lazy William, he's work shy. Meghan is no longer mental problems, but simply tough. And Prince William's rumors of adultery is just the rumors. Let's turn our attention really quickly back to Harry and all of his court cases. I agree with this Twitter user. You can't manipulate the narrative and say that you asked and you were gonna make payments when come to find out you were not going to make payments and it was all a big fat lie and it's all come out. And the same judge recently came out and found that there was a direct line between Harry and Meghan and Omid Scobie. So for all of Omid yelling about I'm not their mouthpiece and I don't have anything to say, the fact that a judge was able to find a direct line says, for me, just about everything you should ever need to know. All right, here's your Finn update. We noticed the other day that he wasn't playing right, he wasn't acting right, and my son, who came over for dinner, said, wow, Mom, Finn's jaw is really swollen. So we said, oh, we'll look at it in the morning. So we get up in the morning, then it was really swollen. I said, something's really wrong. So we ran off to the emergency vet. They took a look. They weren't sure what it was, but they put a big needle in it. They drained 15 cc's of bloody pus out of his poor little jaw. He's now on pain medication, antibiotics. They've sent the fluid off to see, what it is, and we're going to follow up with our doctor. So right now, he's doing just fine. All right, you guys, you know what to do. Hit that like button and that subscribe button. If you've already hit those buttons, double check, make sure you're still subscribed. Don't forget to put those comments down and make them good. And if you've donated anything through my coffee fund, thank you so much. And as always, you guys, have a great day.